What's shaking, fellas? I wanted to go over a sermon I preached to my group a while back. I wanted to make it more video format. I spoke about God's title of Alpha and Omega, what it means. And so I'll just get started. The verse is Revelation chapter 1, verse 8. Jesus says, "I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the ending, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty." So something that God taught me about the title Alpha and Omega is that it's one title. It's two things. It sounds like it's two separate things, but it's not. It's one thing. God can't be Alpha and not Omega. Jesus can't be one and not the other. So, for example, God already is Alpha because he created the world. So there's nothing that anybody can do to change that or stop it. He already is the Alpha. So because of that, he is going to be the Omega. He is going to be there at the end, no matter what happens, no matter what rises up. We can't do anything to change God's status as the Alpha. So because of that, nobody can stop his Omega status either, because it's one title. It's sort of like thunder and lightning, okay? We say thunder and lightning, but it's the same thing. You know, lightning is what we see and thunder is what we hear. Alpha and Omega is the same thing, even though there's kind of two names for it. So I kind of feel like that's why the connection is that God, in the beginning, when he created the world, he said, "Let there be light," when he created everything. And then when Jesus was on the cross, he said, "It is finished," because God created the world and Jesus died on the cross and finished it. And I think that just the same how when God created the world out of pitch darkness, I think that when he returns, it'll be just about as dark as it was when he first created it. But that's just kind of an example of a big scale thing. But what about smaller scale things? Because in the Bible it says to put God first, and I think that this is exactly why. Because if you put God first in your life, you are making him the Alpha of your life. And since they're one title, that means he's going to be there at the end. So whether it's your decisions, your money, your job, your family, whatever the case may be, if you put God first, that means he's going to be there through the end with you. So, for example, in a marriage, let's say, if you wait for the person God has for you and you don't go off and date whoever you want and be with whoever you want to be and do whatever you want to do, if you choose to stop and wait and pray and say, "God, I want you to make this decision," if you consciously decide to make God the Alpha, then that means that when God does show you who he wants you to be with, since he is Alpha and Omega, that means he's going to be there on your first date. He's going to be there when you're old and gray, because it's the same thing. So a similar example is with money, okay? So if you choose to make God the Alpha of your finances, that is the easiest way to do that is with tithing, right? So when you first get some money in, if you put God first and you make sure that you pay your tithes and you do with that money whatever it is that God's telling you to do with it, then that means that you've made him Alpha and Omega of your money. That means he's going to be there right when the paycheck comes in to help you, and he's going to be there when your last cent runs out to make sure that you're taken care of. Okay, so something that God showed me is that the creator of a certain thing gets to decide who the Alpha and Omega is. God created the world, so he got to decide that he was going to be the Alpha and Omega of it. So when you, for example, create a paycheck, that means you get to decide who you want to be the Alpha and Omega. You can make yourself the Alpha and Omega. You can get your paycheck and say, "Well, it wasn't God sweating to make this money, it was me. So I'm going to go spend this money how I want to spend it. I got stuff I want to buy." That's fine. You can make yourself the Alpha. But don't expect God to be the Omega of it, because remember, Alpha and Omega is one title. So if you want to be the Alpha, that means you're going to be there. You're going to be the one to deal with it when you run out of money and you run into problems, and you can't expect God to split that 50-50 with you, because it doesn't split. It's one title. Just the same, you can't make God the alpha of something and let him decide things, and then halfway through you're like, nah, I don't like where this is going, I'm gonna take over now, because it doesn't work like that. It's one title. So something else that I wanted to talk about is that, when you have, even, in the perfect scenario where you put God as the Alpha and Omega, God, I want you to decide this, I want it to be your choice, that doesn't mean you're going to have smooth sailing. It might seem pretty obvious, but just to make sure that it's known that just because God is the Alpha and Omega of something, that doesn't mean it's going to be a cakewalk. Because, you look at the world, God created it, and he's the one that's going to be there when it ends. But there's been, you look at just from creation to the cross, how many ups and downs and horrible, there was a flood in there. The whole earth got destroyed in there, So, if you expect it to be a cakewalk, why am I running into problems? I gave this over to God. Well, there's still going to be problems. But what it does mean is that no problem will ever be able to be big enough to rip something out of God's hands. You know what I mean? So the cross is the perfect example of that. Because God is Alpha and Omega, because Jesus is Alpha and Omega, and he created something, the cross shows that not even death stopped him from being able to finish it. Do you know what I mean? So making God the Alpha and Omega doesn't mean that it's going to be smooth sailing, but what it does mean is that there is going to come a point where it ends good, because God is good. So, and I think that's part of the reason why we have a Bible, is because it's full of thousands of years of stories of kings and queens and prophets and men, women, and children. They're all reminders that the Alpha and Omega is ever present. He's not just there at the beginning and the end, and he kind of just disappears for the middle part. He's there every step of the way. And these stories that fill our Bible, it's proof of that, and sometimes when you are maybe waiting on a promise from God, for example, that was something that God kind of alphaed in your life, right? So what God will do is he'll send reminders and encouragement and confirmations along the way to help keep you focused. And sometimes that can be angering, because if you wait long enough, you kind of get sick of it and you say, I don't want reminders, I just want what you promised me, and it can get kind of hard sometimes. But why God does that is he's showing you, hey, I'm still here. It's a lot like, I used to work in landscaping, okay? So I'd show up to a job, and the salesman would be there, the guy who bid the job, and he'd show, the crew, us guys, he'd show us what to do, what needs to be done, and then he'd get in his car and go back to the office. And then we do the work, and then maybe he'd show up at the end. But that's kind of what normal, regular people do. That's not what God does. What God does as Alpha and Omega is he is there before the beginning, through, after the end. Okay, so for that example, God would be the kind of guy where he's there when you show up to do that job, and he helps you do it. He doesn't leave. He stays there the whole time, and then you get back in your truck and leave, and God is still there. And that's what these reminders that he sends are, is as frustrating as they might be, because you don't want reminders and confirmation. I already know you're going to do this. God, can you please just do it? It can get kind of aggravating, but that's God showing you that he's still here. He hasn't gone anywhere. If you trust God with the beginning of something, then you won't have to worry about the end of it. And that's all I wanted to share with you today. And I hope this helps. So take care.